Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. This is National Citizens Alliance Q&A on mass immigration and the ethnocide of Euro-Canadians. And please share your perspective and also ask any question you want on this topic, and we will do our best to share where we stand on this issue. And it's a very complex issue. There's many layers to it, and unfortunately in our country we've never had a discourse on it, but it's been going on since the late 60s. And isn't that a travesty for our country that we can't even have a public discourse on such a critical issue, and it's just being pushed from the top down onto the Canadian people, and it's impacting us in terms of employment, in terms of the amount of taxes we're paying, in terms of our communities now, in terms of our safety, in terms of our ethnic community bonds are being impacted. So we're going to touch on a lot of these issues tonight, and we're going to qualify this that we're not against immigrants. And a lot of members and supporters of the National Citizens Alliance are from immigrant families. I know my family too immigrated from England, and we have other members. We have a member from Africa, East Africa, who immigrated here. We have another member from Kerala, India, who immigrated here in 1947. He came here. He's actually a pastor, but he came here because he believed in our principles, our values as a country. And over the decades, he's seen it just decline. And now we've become like an amoral country. We have no values, no principles, anything goes. And he's very distraught at what's happened to our country. And so this isn't just Euro-Canadians. There's many immigrants out there that have immigrated to our country, and they're extremely disappointed, and they're joining our party. So this is about all Canadians, and so we're going to get into this tonight. I give you one other example just before we start getting into the questions. I met an immigrant lady from India the other day, and she's frustrated. She's really frustrated at the government and what's going on. Like, she can't even find a job because the new immigrants that are coming in, they're actually getting paid cash and going cheaper in terms of wage below her, and she can't even get work. And there's so many immigrants coming in that are skilled and professional workers who are unemployed are having so much trouble getting work. It's just making it worse. And please don't believe the unemployment statistics. They are not accurate. They're completely underinflated. There's way more unemployed in Canada, and this is wrong what's going on. And I will add one final point before we start getting into the questions. The economic immigrant applicant has been changed. Now they're emphasizing unemployed international students and graduate students. And these are being administrated by international administrators in education. So all these unemployed students are coming into our country, and it's just making things worse. They don't even have jobs. It's unbelievable what's going on. And this is all about globalism. So I'm going to give everyone else a say here tonight, but this is a travesty what's happening to our country, and you can see it's so undemocratic, so top-down, dictatorial. And it shows the contempt of these globalists in Ottawa and in these provincial governments. There's just so much contempt for the Canadian people. How stupid do they think we are? We're not stupid, and we're going to fight back. So this is a start tonight. This is your opportunity to voice what you're feeling, what you're seeing on the ground, and we look forward to hearing from you about this. So I'm going to turn to these. We want to hear from the people. It's incredible. Every time we're meeting Canadians, going door to door, it's just so enlightening, and we're learning so much. But that's what it's all about. So I'm gonna get right into this. Someone's asking here, it looks like someone for the party, who originally started mass immigration into Canada? Who originally started mass immigration? So, there was periods way back. I have a strong background in immigration. I wouldn't consider myself a professional. We have professionals who are helping us behind the scenes, who are sending us information. But there was big periods back in the latter half of the century when a lot of Euro Canadians came into the country, and British and Anglophone, Francophones came into the country. But ever since Pierre Trudeau dictatorially declared Canada multicultural back in 1971. And that's when the floodgates opened, and they actually opened it to anyone and everyone into our country. Previously we had the 1910 Chinese Immigration Act. They didn't want any Asians in the country back at the beginning of the century. And everything has just completely flipped over. Now we're letting anyone and everyone into the country. And, we would argue that this mass immigration, which is completely open borders, taking anyone and everyone, started in the late 1960s, and it's been going on ever since. That globalist Mulroney was a nightmare. Like, he was the worse than Pierre Trudeau. Can you believe it? He allowed mass immigration right through recessions. Even Pierre Trudeau had enough sense not to keep mass immigration during a recessionary period. But that globalist Brian Mulroney, who sold out our country, he allowed it even then. And don't be fooled. That Harper, man, he allowed mass immigration all the way up to 271,000 a year. And that was maxed out in 2015, and that's not including the legal migrants and asylum seekers on top of that. And then the Justin Trudeau has taken it to another level. But there is like a shadow government behind. They have a globalist agenda, and that's what's going on. This has nothing to do with a free and democratic society. Nothing to do with a free and democratic society. This is all about these globalists in Ottawa, the corporate globalists, and they just want more consumers, more taxpayers, and that's what's going on. It has nothing to do with Canada itself and what's best for our country. Remember, these globalists, they have no allegiance to any country. They have no allegiance to Canada. They're just looking at profit. They just want to bring more slave labor in. They don't care about Euro Canadians. It's just insane. But these people are sick in the head, as far as I'm concerned. They should not be running our country. All these globalist parties in Ottawa, they got to be replaced. They're all bought and sold, and they lie to your face. Trust me, they're lying to your face. Look at Harper. Look at his record. He's got this rhetoric, old stock Canadian. That's a bunch of BS. That is absolute BS, because he was in favor of mass immigration like you wouldn't believe. The borders were wide open from some of the worst places in the world, in the Middle East. Pakistan has a lot of issues. Afghanistan, it's all coming in. So I'm going to get back to the questions here. Thank you, Teresa from Vernon, BC, for joining us. And please share your perspective. Yeah, Kirby Ross, thank you for joining us. I'm not sure where you're from, but it's great to have you here tonight. It's not democratic. It's just like the EU, says Kirby Ross. Yeah, exactly, Kirby. Look what's happening to the EU. We just put out a video today, yesterday, on ghettoization. It's a fact. The no-go zones, there's over 900 in Europe now. There's immigrant ghettos, and they're violent, they're angry. I was reading a report on France. There's ghettos with over 2 million angry immigrants in there. And, it's heading to civil war, Europe. And we're heading the same way. all these immigrants that are coming in, they have their ethnic views. They have strong nationalism in their views, and they're segregating. They're forming enclaves as we speak. And we're going to be on the ground more and more trying to uncover this. But, places like Hamilton, Mississauga, parts of Montreal, other parts of Greater Toronto. We can look at Halifax. Can you believe Halifax, which was part of the formation of Canada, the Acadians? That's where, I can't believe it. We just uncovered this. That's where the Islamic Party of Canada formed. Can you believe it? It formed in Halifax. And that's where the Liberal Party is holding their convention. Oh my God. But I have good news. We are going to the Maritimes in May for a 2-week tour. So hopefully we can really reach those great Maritimers and their common sense, and show them that they don't have to put up with this, what's going on. And I'm gonna add one other point here. Just I want everyone to consider what's going on. This is a lot of what's going on is this globalist ideology, and it's linked into social Marxism, and basically it's ethnic relativism and cultural relativism. And they're saying our ethnic bonds in our community do not matter. And they're saying that our culture does not matter. And that's where these globalists are coming from, the globalists in Ottawa. They do not care about those things. But I can trust you, the National Citizen Alliance believes in strong ethnic sanctity. That is critical to our community bonds, about working together, living together under the same principles and values. Also, the cultural integrity, cultural sanctity. That's something we believe in too as a party, and we're going to promote of Euro-Canadians and also our First Nations. But they're taking that all away, and there's so many layers. The same sex in the schools, and they're teaching Arabic in Alberta. They got Islamic prayers in the Peel Board in Ontario. All this stuff is going on. Christine says you have to make it clear that you're not against immigration. At times it feels you are. Yes, we're not against immigration. Christine, thank you for bringing that up. We're not against immigrants. Actually, more and more immigrants are joining the National Citizens Alliance because they see what's going on. However, this radical mass immigration we do not support on so many different levels, like I said in the opening monologue. And there's so many unemployed, and they're bringing mass immigration. It's just adding to the unemployment. There's a massive welfare drain, Christine, on our country now. People are coming in, depending on their cultural background, with 4 wives. They have 5 kids each, and they're all just getting all the benefits of the family tax benefits. It's obscene, and they're just staying at home. And this is what I've talked to a lot of immigrants who I've gone to their home and talked to them. They're concerned that a lot of, excuse me, someone was calling there, but a lot of these people coming in, they're just exploiting Canada. They're exploiting Canada. There's no allegiance to Canada. There's no sense of being Canadian. And so that's what's going on now, complete exploitation. And then another thing that's going on that some immigrants can bring their parents in, and within 10 years, they're on old age security without having to work a day. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. So we want to clean this all up. Just give me a second here. I'm going to go back. Go back to these comments here. Thank you, Patrick Bates and Ray Robertson, for joining us tonight. And I've been following a lot of Patrick. He's very passionate about immigration and what's happening to our country. Kirby Ross is from Ottawa. Thank you, Kirby. And he says we need a revolution. We need a revolution. Yeah, read the hat, everyone. We're on the same page, Kirby. This is top-down globalist politics. Do not be fooled. And again, I'm going to stress we're not against immigrants. If you're an immigrant watching, please join our party. You know, if you're here to work hard and to become Canadian, we're going to embrace you with open arms into the party. That's what we want. But if you're just here to exploit our country, you're here to just feed off our hardworking Canadian taxpayers, you're not welcome in our party. You know, what are you doing in our country? And we're going to try and get rid of you. I'm telling you that right now. We're coming after you. You have no place in this country, and we know some of you out there. But, you know, in Halifax, we know some people like that, and we're going to confront them in May. And this has to stop. This country is off the rails. Okay, if I missed anyone, please resubmit your comments and questions. Someone's saying we're headed for a civil war. Yeah, it's, you know, we're heading in the path of Europe. Europe is definitely heading for a civil war, or definitely more and more strife. And it's well documented. It's happening. There's a lot of violence there. There's no-go zones. And some of the no-go zones in London, I was reading that they throw acid in your face. And then there's London Speaker's Corner. It was just taken over by radical Islamics the other day, beating up people. That's what's coming. Kirby Ross says it's all about globalism, erasing nations, removing borders, and causing social discord. Again, I'm going to repeat that because he's hitting it right on the nail there. It's all about globalism, erasing nations, removing borders, and causing social discord. That's what's coming to us, everyone. It does not have to be, though. But we got to wake up and fight what's going on. And don't be fooled. It's a four-party globalist system right now, and they feel there's no competition, no threat to them. So once we start taking their seats, they'll start coming after us. But that'll be a good start for us. I hope we don't head for a civil war. We don't want that. That's why we formed the National Citizens Alliance. Hopefully we can take their power peacefully. Hopefully we can take their power peacefully. You know, civil war is something we should never want, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. But if it does, it does. Thank you, Barry Prince. Barry's from Northern British Columbia. Thank you, Barry, for joining us tonight. And he's an independent journalist and radio talk show host. Great to have him on tonight. Thank you, Jason Fraser. He's happy with the content. And Christine, Canada is filled with way too many sheep to have a civil war. Good point. But push is going to come to shove, Christine. There's a lot of silent majority out there. A lot of silent majority. So please don't underestimate that. Croft on, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to share what she's sharing here. Report released today in Nova Scotia that says this area can't retain immigrants and wants to know why. Only the strong survive here. Interesting. It says this area can't retain immigrants, so the immigrants can't make a go at it in Nova Scotia, and hopefully they're leaving. I wonder where else they're going. Croft, are they heading over to Moncton, New Brunswick? Are they heading over to Fredericton? Are they going over to St. John's, Newfoundland? I wonder where they're going. Hopefully some of these people are leaving the country. Barry Prince says this mass immigration is so in our face now. And yes, it is. We're asking people, if you live in one of the epic centers of this mass immigration, this extreme multiculturalism in Canada, please send us images of what you're experiencing, photos, and we can post them anonymously. And we just met someone from Cambridge, Ontario, and he's going to be sending us photos of what he sees going on. Cambridge, Ontario is another place where there's a lot of issues, and this extreme multiculturalism and mass immigration is just taking over. The time for leaflets is over. Okay, Kirby, expand on that. Let us know what else, what do you think we should be doing? And Barry Prince says Canadians are waking up. Are they I wonder how much they're waking up, Barry, because there is a four-party globalist conglomerate. They keep switching back and forth, and it just keeps everything moving ahead. We don't have a party in Ottawa that truly represents the Canadian people and their best interests. Until we have that, Barry, nothing is going to change. Nothing. Okay, Patrick is here. Patrick Bates. Thank you, Patrick. He says, to build ultimate trust, you would have to consider no unanimity to all ministers and jailing Trudeau for his corrupt ways. This is something we're looking at closely, Patrick, and we're going to be releasing something on this, I hope, by May or June. But no one should be above the rule of law of the land. Everyone needs to be accountable. And if there's politicians in Ottawa that have committed treason, that have aided treason to our country, they need to be held accountable. And that's something we're looking at, Patrick. And trust us, we will be releasing something. Just give us a couple more months. What about those that have already immigrated but commit crimes? Yeah, we have a really tough, no-nonsense immigration policy. I encourage everyone to go on to nationalcitizensalliance.ca and look at our immigration policy. Also, there's an integration of newcomers policy and also a related policy ban on the practice of radical extremist ideology. So with those three policies are all interconnected. I encourage everyone to give them a good read and give us some feedback. But we believe if someone immigrates to our country and they commit an offense while they're non-resident, while they're a resident, greater than a traffic ticket, they should be deported from the country. That's all there is to it. That's our view. Coming to our country is a privilege, not a right. And we want people coming here with values, principles, and that are going to become Canadian. This isn't about catering to people coming into our country. It's about doing what's best for our country, and that's our threshold. We will deport those people. If we find illegal migrants, we will deport them as well, because they're criminals. They're coming in illegally. They're violating our laws. They're just coming in, and we're going to shut down these sanctuary cities. There's growing sanctuary cities in Canada that are harboring criminals, and they need to be held accountable. These municipalities across Canada. There's at least 7 sanctuary cities in Canada, and we're going to come after them. And people are going to have to respect the law of the land. Barry says everyone needs to call. So he's saying call these elected representatives. That's a waste of time as far as we're concerned. They're just globalists, and they're controlled by their party. So what are you going to do? Scream at them? They're following the party line, which is the globalist agenda. So you're better off working your butt off, helping to remove them. That's what we recommend. Don't waste your time calling them. Are they really listening? That's a waste of time. Dave Mitchell, thank you for joining us. Dave was at the last one. He had some great feedback and questions. National, cultural, economic freedom is being eroded, says Dave. The charter is being voided. How much of current law and political agenda are you going to immediately address? Oh, we're going to address... Oh, there's so much legislation, Dave, that we want to rescind. We want to rescind the Multiculturalism Act. And this Multiculturalism Act mandates the federal government to promote and enhance foreign cultures in Canada. We will rescind that act. Listen, we have no problem with someone coming here and promoting and enhancing their own culture. But do not look on us to use our tax dollars to promote it and enhance it. That's it. You can come here, you can wear your dress, you can wear your turban or kirpan. We have no issue with that. But do not ask us for tax dollars to promote and enhance that in our country. You know, why did you come here? If you want to do that, you should stay in your homeland. That's our view. But I will have to qualify this. We want the burqa and niqab banned in public places. 100%. At minimum, the burqa and niqab is symbolic oppression of women. And at worst, it's overt oppression of women. We do not want that in Canada. It has nothing to do with our principles and values. The same applies to female genital mutilation, honor killing, abuse of women, physical abuse of women, physical abuse and harm to homosexuals in our society, any hatred to Jewish people. This is not going to be tolerated. So a lot of this stuff that's coming in, we're gonna be fighting that, Dave. But you got to look on our website. We're gonna rescind C16 on this gender stuff. We're gonna completely amend the Immigration Act, and our basic policy on immigration is that we want a temporary pause, and then we want substantial reduction. And we want to put in a program, a 4-child program, to increase the size of traditional families in Canada. And we will create the incentives, and we will put out an information blitz on this to wake up our families and to help provide and help encourage them to have larger families. And part of that is relieving the financial burden. And I have to add, this is totally doable. And you can see the globalism agenda. This has never been done. They don't even talk about it. They don't even, they spend more time talking about the bogus Islamophobia, right? They don't talk about traditional families and that they're being replaced. You see the priorities here. So I'm going to, if anyone has any questions that are outside of mass immigration, ethnocide of Euro-Canadians, we're going to leave them for another forum. So thank you for sharing those questions, but we want to stay on topic today. Kirby Ross says the left liberals won't like that. They'll say that that's racist. So be it, Kirby. We're not afraid of that. We operate in the realm of facts and reason, and focused on the well-being and safety of the Canadian people. So we have no problem offsetting name calling, because that's all it is, Kirby. It's just name calling. And we encourage all our supporters and members to not lower yourself to the name calling. It's only going to increase as our membership and supporters grow and our message gets out there. Do not submit to the name calling. Yeah, Christine says JT is always under pressure. He just keeps doing what he wants to do and nothing is done. Yeah, it's all, but remember, there is a shadow government there, Christine. It's, the Privy Council. There's corporate globalists that have infiltrated all those parties. And another thing is we have certain immigrant groups that are infiltrating the government as well. They're very aggressive, and they're getting in there and pushing their agenda. So I'd like to hear what people have to say about this, because in our opinion, this globalism agenda, which is all about mass immigration, extreme multiculturalism, eroding our freedom, open borders, stamping out Canadian nationalism, creating ultimately a post-national globalist state, what I call a globalist village. They're using radical Islamic groups to divide us, in our opinion. We know these groups, they're connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, and but they're very aggressive too, and they have their agenda, which is a world caliphate. We recognize that, but at the same time, these globalists in Ottawa are allowing it. And we're under the assumption that they're not naive and ignorant enough that they don't know about this. We're assuming that they have to know about this, and therefore they're just using this particular cultural, ideological group to divide us. And that's our opinion, but share feedback on that. This is very disturbing. And it is definitely dividing us. But we encourage our supporters and members to focus on the globalists in Ottawa that are allowing everything you see going on to happen, but also focus on your fellow Canadians who are voting them in. They're the ones ultimately that are to blame because they keep voting them back in. So talk to your fellow Canadians. The power is in the people's hands. We just got to keep spreading our message, and that's a way we can reverse what is going on, and it's a travesty. There's questions about the party and provincial, and there's other questions here going on. We want to thank you for those questions, but we want to stay on topic today. We're going to have a different Q&A on that, so save those for another Q&A, please. Would you ban, thank you, Patrick, would you ban the Islamic Party of Canada to ever see the light of day? To ever see the light of day. Interesting. I was looking at their website. There's not much on there. I think they're trying to get registered now. And it's quite scary, everyone. If you read between the lines, it looks like it's a fundamentalist Islamic party, and they want to implement the Quran as it was written hundreds and hundreds of years ago. That's what they want to do. It's quite scary. Basically, they want to implement Sharia in Canada. That's what I can see from the Islamic Party of Canada. Patrick, it's we would deal with the Islamic Party of Canada through our ban on the practice of radical extremist ideology. As far as I can see, they would be banned on those grounds right there. Because as far as we're concerned, they're radical and they're extremists, and we would ban them from practicing. So yes, we would. We have to be careful. There are Christian parties, so we have to be fair. But in this particular case, this party, as far as I can see, they're radical and they're extremists. And I encourage people to look them up. And isn't that horrific? They originated in Halifax, where the Liberal Party of Canada is holding their convention. Isn't that horrific? Isn't that ironic? Isn't that fitting? Kirby Ross agrees, no burqas, and we say no niqabs either. We have a video up on our Facebook and YouTube page in which we interviewed a woman who's in Canada, who immigrated from Egypt, and she wears a niqab. And I don't know about you, but I feel cringes whenever I see that in the public. And I imagine our Canadian women out there, I can't imagine what they're feeling when they see that. Oh my God, it must be scarier than anything. I've messaged Catherine in the Waterloo region and was completely ignored. Yeah, exactly. And here's another question I want to get into. How will you deal with the Immigration Act that gives them the right to an appeal that takes years? Yeah. We're gonna deal with the Immigration Act, and just trust me. One thing we're doing, everyone, is when you immigrate to the country, you're not going to be eligible for any welfare or social assistance for at least 5 years, a minimum 5 years. We're doing that. Also, we want to, right now, the citizenship has been reduced to 2 years. Can you believe that? 2 years. We want it up to 10 years. People have to prove themselves to become a citizen. And we want a minimum 10 years in Canada. And then after that, we would consider you for citizenship. And the Immigration Act, we want tough screening. We got that in our immigration policy, everyone. We want to keep these radical extremists out. We want to keep people out with values and cultural beliefs that are antagonistic to our liberties and civil rights. That's just common sense. And if we have our way, we will not allow immigration from certain countries. And we have that in our policy. But we will allow people seeking freedom from those countries. But the bottom line is we want substantial reduction. There's too much reliance on immigration. And another thing is a temporary foreign worker program. And that's been completely abused by these corporate globalists. It's undercutting Canadian workers. And these temporary workers are treated like garbage too. And there's scandals going on behind the scenes. People getting paid thousands of dollars to get people into the country, and these international administrators, like in India, are making millions off the federal government, bringing in students, students in gender studies, students in basically in basket weaving, you name it. They're all unemployed, and they're coming into our country as economic migrants. It is crazy what's going on to our country. It's crazy. And I encourage people to look at our policy. It's no nonsense. And we have to emphasize when we talk about integration into Canada, we're talking about basic cultural norms. We don't have an issue with someone wearing a turban or wearing some dress, barring the niqab or the burqa, but we want basic cultural norms where you have, and this is getting back to the Judeo-Christian values of the country, and we'll be releasing a policy on this. And this is about hard work, respecting your neighbors, and honoring your country. And we want to build a beautiful country. We want to build a beautiful country, but we're heading in the wrong direction. We're turning Canada into a ghetto. We're going to have no-go zones, and it could eventually lead to civil war. That's what's going on. Kirby Ross, excellent. Thank you, Kirby. He says multiculturalism does not work, especially when the cultures that are swarming in don't want that culture invited. They don't want the culture that invited them. Yeah, I see what he's saying. There's cultures coming in, and they reject us as Canadians. They reject our culture. They want to take us over. We're basically being invaded. And this is true, Kirby. And there's another thing here. We released a video on this. And you could argue that multiculturalism is the slow death to the host culture. Multiculturalism is the slow death to the host culture. And what we see going on in Canada is we have mass immigration and extreme multiculturalism, which in our opinion is a fast death to the host culture. And that's what's happening, everyone. And I know our Canadians here today listening, living in those certain areas, are seeing it happen. They can't recognize Canada. And as I mentioned already, we have immigrants supporting the party who can't recognize Canada, who are very distraught, disappointed, very saddened by what's happened to our country. It's flipped around. We no longer have any principles, values. Everything is relative, and it's very, very troubling to our country. But we can get it back. But it starts with core principles and values as a basis for our society. We need to get back to that. And yeah, check out that video we did on multiculturalism. But Kirby, we want to rescind that Multiculturalism Act of 1988. Isn't that atrocious? They're spending millions and millions of our tax dollars promoting and enhancing foreign cultures in Canada. Again, we're not against foreign cultures, some of them. And, you're free to come here and live your culture, but don't expect tax dollars to promote and enhance it. You're coming to Canada, and we have our traditional cultures here and obligation to enhance and protect our culture. This is our homeland. This is our homeland. You are coming to our homeland. So respect our homeland. And but we got a lot of work to do, everyone. That charter which was imposed on us, we never voted as Canadians on it, has section 27, which is promoting multiculturalism in Canada, the heritage. And this has been pushed on us since the 60s. There's a book, Canada in Decay, which documents all this. And I encourage everyone to take a look at this book. It's one of many, but feel free to take a look at this book. It goes into the history right from pre-Confederation. I've already read it, and when we're in the Maritimes, we're meeting with Ricardo. We're going to be holding a forum there. He'll be speaking, and we'll have members of the party speaking too. So that's going to be a great event coming up in May. So if you haven't already, just spend a few dollars and get this book and get up to speed on what's happening to the country. And this is not only liberals, this is conservatives too. They're all bought into the globalism agenda. Do not be fooled. There's a lot of rhetoric on the surface, but if you look at the history, you will see that they're both in on it. They're both in on it 100%. So take a look at that book, and you'll be up to speed. It's quite shocking what's going on. And we've already posted this, that before 2100, if we continue with this mass immigration and what's going on, the Euro-Canadians who created the institutions, the educational system, the laws, the Constitution of Canada, they will be reduced to a mere minority, 20% or less. Invisible ethnic minorities will be 80% or more. This is what's coming for our children and their children and their children. That's what's coming. And how do you think we're going to be treated? I was reading comments today that, they're gonna harass people. We're already being discriminated against. White people are discriminated against. Anytime we speak up, we're labeled racist, Nazi, white supremacist, whatever. I encourage people to fight through that name calling. Do not submit to it. And we have a right to speak as anyone else. And we encourage our immigrant supporters to speak as well. But this isn't about white. This isn't about any color. This is about Canadians and what's happening to our country. Diversity is not our strength. Unity is our strength. Yes, indeed. Unfortunately, there isn't much unity in the country, but I can, our party is growing very strong now, and within our party, we're creating strong unity on our platform, and that's positive. But the globalism agenda is all about division, control, and dividing and conquering. It's that simple. It's all about dividing everyone and confusing everyone. I encourage people to look up cultural Marxism. The Marxist school, I think it's of 1924, and it's all about creating inverse revolution by turning everything upside down and eroding our individual beliefs and values. And we can see that going on now. So we want everyone to stay true to your principles and values, and don't become disconnected from them, or you're going to be adrift. You're going to be adrift, because that's what's happening. And that's what, I bring in ISIS fighters into our communities. That's all about eroding our beliefs, confusing us as Canadians, and because these are the ultimate monsters that we're bringing into our communities. And that's something we want to hold Trudeau accountable for, and we will be exploring that coming up. Would you please remove the key players in the political scene that have ties to radicals? Fantastic stuff, Patrick. I encourage you to send me a list of people you have in mind, and it'd be good to see where you're coming from on that, and everyone else. Who do you think has committed treason? Remember, there's behind the scenes, it's quite murky, so you don't really see everything, but yeah, we got to hold people accountable, and we're going to be doing that probably in a couple of months. You're going to see some powerful videos and platform positions coming out of us. And I agree with Patrick on this. We don't want anyone to take this mass immigration, extreme multiculturalism out on any immigrant in the country. We don't think that's the answer. Unless you have to defend yourself, then by all means use whatever force is necessary, right, to defend you and your family, 100%. But our anger, our frustration, our disbelief in what's going on needs to be directed at these globalists in Ottawa. They're the ones that have their levers on the power that are allowing what is going on. Again, as I mentioned, the Canadian electorate. Talk to your fellow Canadians. Why do they keep voting for these parties? Why? They're just getting played back and forth, back and forth. Nothing changes. So you need to talk to your fellow Canadians too. The worst thing you can do is take it out on, let's say, a Muslim,
or take it out on some other foreign person who practices foreign culture. That's the worst thing you do. It's just going to feed into the narrative of white racism and Islamophobia and all that. We don't need that. And besides, these people were invited here. They've been encouraged to promote their culture, promote their ideologies. So we need to be taking it out on those, I wouldn't even call them Canadians, those bought and sold politicians. Take it out on them and the Canadian electorate. And that's the best way forward. That's the productive way forward. Christine, I feel bad for you. And Christine's been sharing some fantastic comments on her page. She's a really level-headed mother. And she says she's scared for my children's future. Oh, my God. Christine, if you see what's going on in Europe, and I'm sure you do know what's going on in Europe, it'd be terrifying. The epidemic rapes in Sweden, the no-go zones across the country, Europe, that is, the increasing of ethnic violence, the immigrant violence, the abuse of women and the groping of women. It's just in free fall, Europe. It's an absolute free fall. And look at the UK. They have over 90 Sharia courts. There's more and more no-go zones, and it's very sad to see that country fall, and it's falling. And they're locking up people who are speaking up against what's going on. They're censoring and locking up. And we actually have that here. Some of our videos are now being censored, and we know of other groups and organizations that are being censored. And we know Kevin J. Johnson, he was actually charged for hate speech. So we could see already what's going on in Europe is happening here. And, there's already the segregation in our society. There's enclaves forming. We can see them in Hamilton, in places like Halifax, Mississauga. There's parts of Calgary Northeast that are like that too, and there's other parts of Canada. I found out the other day that they're building the first mosque up in the Yukon. Can you believe it? It's already up there, and isn't it fitting? We just got a new member from the Yukon as well. Maybe that's the reason. Kirby Ross says, force everyone together so they fight for each other and not the puppet masters. Start accepting less freedom. The voting habits and tendencies of this culture is undone by the flood of another. Kirby's right. We got to stand up for our ethnic identity. We got to stand up for our cultural identity, our heritage, our identity. We got to, it's both Anglophone, Francophones. We got to unite. All Francophones and Anglophones got to unite. Quebec is being inundated with mass immigration. It's a travesty there. It's an absolute travesty. Montreal is not recognizable right now, and I feel bad for the Quebecois. They love their culture, and we love their culture, and we want them to maintain and protect their culture. And we need to unite with our Francophones, brothers and sisters. We need to unite. We also need to unite with our First Nations. And we have some First Nations on board, but we need to unite further with them. They're the ones that are going to be really harmed in the future. They're very vulnerable. And fortunately, some of them are waking up, but not enough. And feel bad for the Francophones. They're under massive invasion. They've been sold out by their provincial politicians, and it's being pushed on them on a large scale. Very, very troubling. And the fertility rate is very low now. And that's something that needs to change. Back in pre-Confederation, the Francophones had a fertility rate as high as 5.65. Now it's below 2. It's down, and it might be like 1.2 or less. This is very disturbing. And we call on our Quebecers to really embrace this fight. And don't take it out on any immigrants. That's not the way forward. But let's start removing these globalists. Let's remove these globalists. They've taken over our country, and they're leading our country to a disaster. We need to remove the globalists. Patrick's asking, would you consider implementing votes of no confidence even if you have a majority of government? 100%, everyone. We want democratic reform in this country. Look, it's a top-down, globalist, dictatorial government. These people have contempt for the Canadian people. They think they know better, and that's what's going on. There is, it's basically a pseudo-democracy right now going on. They tell people, they don't even want everyone voting every 4 years, but people who do vote, then they basically tell them to go to sleep for 4 years. We all know this has been going on for decades. But yes, Patrick, in our government reform policy, we want to legislate the ability of the Canadian people to hold a national binding referendum of no confidence on any sitting government within 1 year of forming office. 100%. And we need to have more referendums like Switzerland. What an incredible country, Switzerland, and their referendums giving their people a say in what's going on. We don't have that, anyone. We don't have that. And that's a cornerstone of our policies. And we need to give Canadians greater say over what's going on. And look at the mass immigration. We have no say over that. What about redefining Canada as multicultural, now extreme multicultural? We had no say in that. This is absurd. This is the truth, everyone. Anyone who's been voting for those globalist establishment parties, you've either been fooled or you're being played. Look at the facts. Look at the history. Yes, our children, especially our girls, will be in grave danger with radical ideologies. Radical ideologies. Yes, 100%. Look what happened in Newfoundland. The grooming. They were grooming young girls for ideological prostitution. It was a grooming ring. That's the only one that was found out. There's large-scale female genital mutilation going on in Canada. This is a fact. There was a group in Calgary that was actually justifying it. They put out a paper justifying. Could you believe that? This is what's happening to our country. We have people, new immigrants, like, for example, there's an extremist in Halifax, and she was telling Canadians to shut up. We don't care. We're here. We're doing what we want. This is what's happening. This is the division that's happening. It's here, everyone. We all know it. So we need to speak up. Never take it out on an immigrant except in self-defense. Defend yourself. Defend your family. That's something that's part of our policies, part of our constitutional amendment, part of our firearm policy. Self-defense, 100%. But it would be a terrible mistake for you to take it out on anyone. Any migrant or immigrant that's here. We don't want that. We condemn that. The best thing is to help us replace these globalists and talk to your electorate. In 1971, Kirby says, Canada became the first country in the world to enact official state-sponsored multiculturalism. At the time, Canada was 96% European. There was no vote. There was no referendum. We were never asked. We never agreed. As in all Western countries, multiculturalism was imposed on us without our consent. Our countries are democracies. And in a democracy, the majority rules. And across the entire Western world, undemocratically imposed multicultural policies are reducing our people, Europeans, to minorities within our own countries and thereby stripping us of our autonomy, of our powers of self-determination. We are deprived of our ability to choose our leaders and our destinies for ourselves. Multiculturalism runs counter to the interests of our people, and we did not vote for it. Therefore, it is completely illegitimate, and we are entirely justified in opposing it, resisting it, and destroying it. 100%, Kirby. Excellent stuff. We totally agree with you. And in 1960, 97% of the Canadian population was Euro-Canadians. 1960. And if we continue, we're going to be as low or lower than 20%. That's what's happening, everyone. That's what's happening. This is a complete globalist agenda, and people need to wake up and rise up. And we need to fight this, and we agree with Kirby. We're not against, cultures in here that are compatible with our liberties and civil rights. That's fine with us. We have no issue with that. But we have an issue when they're being promoted and protected with our tax dollars. That's wrong. We have an issue with cultures that are incompatible with our civil rights and with our liberties. We want these cultures out of Canada. And that's what we have in one of our policies. Ban on the radical extremist ideologies. This is what we need to do. And, it's quite daunting what's facing us, but through the will of the people, we can overcome these globalists. They do not have our heart, and we have the ideas. These people have no allegiance to Canada. These are the people that are running our country right now. They have no allegiance to what it means to be Canadian. This is what's going on. This is fact. This is fact. Thank you, Kirby, for sharing that. It's fantastic stuff. And he's right. He's 100% right. Thank you, Ryan, for joining us. He says, I know many people from England and Europe that have been here for years, but still do not have Canadian citizenship. That much deserve to be given it. Wow. Isn't that horrendous, Ryan? I can't believe that. Oh, my God. Oh. They're being denied citizenship as well. Wow. That's something we don't support, Ryan. If you go into our immigration policy, we are going to prioritize countries, immigrants from countries that are compatible with our values, that are compatible with our civil rights, with our liberties. We're going to prioritize them. And by the same token, we aren't going to want immigrants from countries that have values that are antagonistic to ours. It's in our immigration policy. And that's what we're going to implement. Yes, Kirby, the temporary worker program is a huge fraud. 100%. Everyone, it's amazing the fraud of this program. There's so many layers to it, and there's money changing hand. And some of these globalists in Ottawa are on the take. They're bringing people in here for money. There's a immigration judge in Vancouver, BC, that has exposed some of this. He's very outspoken. And it's not just liberals, it's conservatives, so-called conservatives. I call them globalists. But and then it's terrible the way temporary workers are treated, and they're undercutting our own workers. And you know, immigrants here are starting to realize what's going on, and that's why they're joining us. This is not the country they wanted to move. They didn't want to move to a country with the same issues of where they're coming from. They don't want that. There's a lot of immigrants that have come to Canada that came here because they thought it was a better place to live, a better place to raise their family. But they're realizing that there's a lot of the same issues happening here, and they're growing. They're very frustrated, disappointed, and they're joining us. And we welcome them, and we will be showcasing them. Kirby Ross says, I worked in big dollar companies in Toronto that were almost 100% foreign workers, everyone. Isn't that a scam, everyone? Did you hear that? This is how bad it is. And this is a betrayal of the Canadian people. And again, these are corporate globalists that are pulling the strings of these globalist politicians that are allowing this to happen. And it has nothing to do with the Canadian people. Nothing to do with the Canadian people. Isn't that horrendous? Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry. I hope I'm not missing anyone. Just keep posting your comments. If I missed you, I will get to them. Thank you, Cody, for joining us. Excellent. He says, what people often don't realize is that the population does not need to continually grow for a country to prosper. Here. Excellent point, Cody. Excellent point. And then he goes on to say a natural be and flow of population actually helps maintain the value of jobs. The value of jobs, goods and services. It's like the ridiculous idea that 4% increase in growth for every corporation is not only attainable but sustainable. Resources are finite. A beautiful country like Canada should understand and protect its resources, its people in the long term. Yeah, he's excellent point, Cody. And we talk about this in our economic aspect of our immigration policy, and you know, the globalist narrative is that we need all these people in our country for the prosperity of the country, and that's a fallacious argument. We can see the welfare drain on our country. We can see the growing unemployment that's being lowered valued in our country. We can also see the erosion of our freedoms, the erosion of our heritage, our cultural norms, and our identity. And how can this be good for our economy? We can also see the erosion of our security, of our families. You know, and like I said, look at the ghettos in Europe, look at the no-go zones. We are heading in that track. How can this be good for our economy? And then we have a number of immigrants, and I've talked to immigrants here, everyone, and they tell us that there's immigrants coming here, and they're coming just to exploit Canada. They're coming here to exploit our generosity, the hardworking Canadian taxpayers. They're coming to exploit, and they're sending all their money home. That's what's going on. So, Cody, you're right. There's so many layers to this. Do not be fooled. These are corporate globalists. They're greedy. They have no allegiance to the country, and they're just looking at the bottom line. They're looking to fill their pockets. They have no connection to what it means to be Canadian, our heritage, our basic cultural identity. Some of these corporate globalists, they have offices all around the world. They don't care. Canada is just another marketplace for them. And these are the people that are pulling the strings in Ottawa. Just remember that this is why this is going on. And we posted a podcast on this earlier this week. I encourage people to go listen to it. And it looks at the Power Corporation and how it's a revolving door between these globalist parties. And these corporate globalists want our population up to 100 million. That's their end goal. They want it up to 100 million. And the sooner the better. And because it's more profit for them. The government wants it too because it's more tax dollars. They can keep growing and filling their pockets too. So it has nothing to do with the Canadian people. So we all need to wake up. This is reality. For those who are listening tonight that are in disbelief, look at the facts. Look at Europe. Look at the history. Look at our videos. We document what has happened. Go read the book by Ricardo Deschênes, Canada in Decay. Just get informed. Oh, good point, Kirby. Kirby's making a good point. It's kind of crazy what he's saying, but literally we're being digested. We're being consumed. The Canadian people, the traditional Canadian people, are being consumed from within. And there was a comment the other day I want to share. It was on our YouTube page. Someone made a great comment. It was Cicero, I think Cicero, going back to the Roman era and saying when there's treason within, no country can overcome that when there's treason within. And that's what we're facing now. But mistake not, everyone. This is a battle of ideas. We're facing a battle of ideas, a battle of control, a battle of propaganda. But this is the basic idea is this post-national globalist state where everyone is controlled and divided, where the founders, the creators of Canada are relegated to a minority. That's one idea. Then we have our idea, National Citizens Alliance, which is embracing free enterprise in Canada and our entrepreneurship, and also Canadian nationalism. Having pride in our country, looking after our country, screening those who come into our country, not just having wide open borders, but that's our vision. Having a beautiful country and actually looking after it, looking after our people. That's our vision. And then we have the post-national globalist vision of these four establishment parties. So you have a clear choice there. It's very clear. I don't know how you can not side with us. I don't know. And like I said, we have a growing number of immigrants who embrace our vision. And that's why they immigrated to Canada. Barry Prince says Pierre Elliott Trudeau started the multiculturalism experiment in Canada, and Justin is just carrying on the family name. Yeah, that's fair. We don't want to give Pierre too much credit because there is a shadow government, there is a Privy Council, Barry, and they all, and these corporate globalists have their tentacles in these parties. So as far as we're concerned, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who is, as far as we're concerned, is he's a social Marxist communist, sympathizer, lover, whatever. He should never ever been prime minister. It was a disaster, obviously on many levels, but he is stringed to these corporate globalists. This is all coming from the corporate globalists who are are basically ruling our country. And that's the truth. And it's not just the liberals, Barry. Look at the history. Mulroney was worse, in many senses, worse than Pierre Trudeau. And it's pretty hard to be worse than Pierre Trudeau. And then it just keeps growing from there, this agenda. If you look at the history, it doesn't matter which party's in. They're still pushing it. They're still doing... Harper had incredible mass immigration like you wouldn't believe. But then he had rhetoric on the surface that was covering up what he was doing. He was funding mosque. He set up Islamic Heritage Month. You know, the mass immigration was unprecedented at that time. It was historic levels. His foreign aid to other countries surpasses even Justin Trudeau and the federal government. So let's remember that. Cody says, my grandfather worked for the government putting up the first radio and radar installations at airports. 40 years of service. He lives in Richmond Hill. And he and one other family are the only people left on the street who could be considered Canadians and speak English first. That's what's happening. It's an invasion. It's an invasion, Cody. Isn't that horrendous? Like I said, these corporate globalists do not care. Look at Europe. Europe's worse, Cody. No-go zones, ghettos, lots of ghettos, angry migrants. There's vandalism, all kinds of vandalism. There's epidemic rapes. And it's happening here. There's more and more cases of that are going on. There's stuff going on behind the scenes. But eventually it'll be exposed. But yeah, isn't it a travesty, everyone? We all need to wake up. It's unbelievable. We got to save our country. I just can't believe this is happening. It's just unbelievable. If their countries and cultures are so great, why don't they stay there? Says Kirby Ross. Yep. Why don't they stay there? And you got to remember too, Kirby, a lot of those countries, they have very high population. They're breeding so much. It's like a place like Pakistan, they're almost 300 million. And then you look at a place like India, what are they? I'm guessing 1.4 billion or more. So they're overflowing with population. These people are just spreading and moving, and when they get here, they're told to. They're actually given money, Kirby, to promote and enhance their culture when they get here. That's what's happening. We have no values. We have no principles. We're going to go for another 10 minutes, everyone. I want to thank you for joining. I think we're really getting to the root of what's happening to our country. Okay, again, multiculturalism, someone says, equals ethnic death to our culture. Multiculturalism equals ethnic death to our culture. And we would argue that, what about the extreme multiculturalism? That's really killing us. Radical grooming gangs are now in Canada. Radical grooming gangs. And these are people who are taking young girls for prostitution. Yes, Kirby, he's 100% right. I hope you join our party, Kirby, because you're 100% on our wavelength. Kirby says people don't realize the so-called right wing are true liberals, 100%. And we would argue, Kirby, that the liberals and conservatives are really globalists. That both those parties are just globalists, and they have some differences on the surface, but at the core, they're globalists. Thank you, John. John said he agrees with us, brother. Yeah, thank you. I wish we were wrong, John. I really do. But this is the ugly truth of Canada and where we're going. But at least we're speaking up now. At least we're speaking up now. It's very sad. How do we reverse the numbers of visible minorities? Is that even possible without enforcement? Yeah, I think we can do it systematically, Cody. Some of these visible minorities are great Canadians. They've embraced our values. Remember that. I met a gentleman, a Canadian, a true Canadian from India. He immigrated from Kerala, India, which is in the southern part of India, in 1947, and he's a pastor. And he's fully embraced what it means to be Canadian. So we got to be careful there. What we want to do, Cody, is get rid of these radical extremists in Canada. And we want to make sure that we get rid of those people who are exploiting our country, those people who refuse to become Canadian in our traditional sense, those people who refuse to embrace our basic cultural values of what it means to be Canadian. And we have a number of policies on our website that will deal with this, Cody. Just go look through our immigration, our integration policy, our ban on the practice of radical extremism. Those are 3 good policies to start with. But we're also going to rescind M103, E41, and we're going to deal with rescind the Multiculturalism Act. We want to amend the Employment Equity Act, which is creating affirmative action for these visible minorities. Kirby says white Europeans are walking zombies because of years and years of brainwashing from the media. 100%. It's also in academia. Academia is bought and sold in Canada. The government has given a lot of grants on multiculturalism. Kirby, it's in the schools. But the good thing for us is that people on the ground are seeing the truth. So no matter how much propaganda there is, Kirby, there's nothing like real life experience that our Canadians are seeing, like in places like Montreal, Hamilton, Halifax, Mississauga, places like that. Also Vancouver, BC is there's actually a mass exodus of white Canadians and First Nations out of Vancouver, Greater Vancouver, because it's basically being taken over. Cody says, unfortunately, people don't feel confident in voting for the smaller parties, are more worried about another party being in power, reactionary voting, than voting for what's best for the country. Yeah, we're fighting that, Cody. We have a couple of videos on vote splitting myth, and we have some other videos, but we got to keep re-educating the populace, and we've already started that, and we will continue to do that. And we feel we're on a good track, Cody. We feel we're been given the highest respect by some Canadians. They say we speak the truth. So to me, that's for us, that's the ultimate compliment. And if we continue on this path, good things will happen. When the people trust you, Cody, that is power. That is ultimate power. And we're honored to have the support of a growing number of Canadians. And this can be reversed. Again, in the battle of ideas, we have won as far as we're concerned. And our will is stronger than these globalists. Our political will is stronger. Brian Brecken says Trudeau met with the Muslims here right after the ISIS terror attacks in Edmonton. They are leaving for somewhere else. I wonder where. Right. Yeah, ISIS, and we deal with ISIS a lot in our policy. We have a policy on ISIS fighters. We want them charged for high treason. And we support, if the Canadian people will it, the return to capital punishment for egregious crimes like terrorism. Oh, excellent. Tommy Robinson. Christine is following him. Yeah, we are too, and we're monitoring what's going on in the UK. And these people are on the front lines of what's going on, and it will be coming here. Yeah, 100%, Cody. People are brainwashed into accepting the current multiculturalism diversity agenda, too scared to speak up, but we're speaking up. And hopefully this will create a domino. This will create a snowball effect, Cody. That's all we can do. Speak the truth. This hasn't been spoken about for decades. I don't think it's ever been spoken about in Canada, and we're speaking about it. So that's progress. That's true progress tonight. Europe is in taters, but they are in the streets now fighting to regain their countries. Yeah, and we're supporting in places like Hungary and Orban, the brave, courageous Orban of the president of Hungary, fighting against the globalists in Europe and from the UN. And that's we've embraced the same struggle. The Polish people fighting, and there's a fight going on in the UK and France as well. Le Pen and her movement, National Front, is fighting, and there's movements in Germany as well. So there's a lot of positive going on. Yeah, Christine says a Muslim woman threw a rock at a 10-year-old and the poor kid ended up in emergency care. It is happening across Canada. It is being downplayed, kept quiet, unless we know the people it is happening. Yes, there's a lot of stuff that's not being reported, so we encourage our supporters and members to send us what's going on the ground, and we will share it to everyone else. If you got photos, if you know what's going on in your community, send it to us. Please send it to us, and we will share it to a greater audience. Excellent point, Kirby Ross. Islam is monocultural. Islam, Sharia, political Islam, is about a world caliphate. It believes in spreading Sharia, which they view as the divine word of Allah, to everywhere in the world. There is only one culture. It's basically a one Sharia government. That's what they're working towards. There's imams in Canada that support that and that are promoting that. I've talked to one, I've interviewed one, and it's here. Trust me. And also another troubling thing too, Kirby, I want to share with everyone. They're trying to stamp out Canadian nationalism. While they're allowing all these foreign cultures to bring their own nationalism into the country. That's going to create chaos. Yeah, Patrick's asking what kind of incentives families can expect. They're going to be financial incentive, tax incentives, rebates, for traditional families to have larger families. We're going to make it a hell of a lot easier on them, and we're going to take the financial burden away. This is a priority of ours, Patrick, and it's something we're going to implement. And it's actually going to be more cost effective because the immigration into Canada and refugees, it's costing $24 billion a year. The total cost is $35 billion plus a year, including all the welfare and social assistance handouts. $35 billion a year. Imagine if we put $10 billion, half of that. Let's say we put $15 billion towards incentives for larger traditional families. Imagine the impact we can have with 15, just half of that. Unbelievable. Yeah, Christine says she would love to have 4 or 5 more children but can't afford it. So we have a policy to deal with that, Christine. and it's totally doable. And someone says that kid that was hit by a rock, apparently that was in Halifax, and we're going there. We look forward to going there and exposing that. It says here in 1960s, Quebecers were brainwashed into accepting the importation of millions of Haitians, Moroccans, Algerians, Middle Easterns, from all over, of course. And plus, you got to have sympathy for the Quebecers. There's so much corruption on the top layer of that society. And it's kind of like what's happening in Ottawa. They're all just globalists. So we need to support our Quebecers. They're in the fight of their lives, and so are we. So we need to unite with our Quebecers on this issue, and that's what we encourage. Yeah, you're saying in 1963, Lester B. Pearson stated bicultural bilingualism. Yes, 100%. And then there was a report done, a heritage report done, I think it was done in 1967, and it said that the country was bicultural, bilingual. But then the globalists, Trudeau and others, they redefined the country as multicultural. They didn't care. This was their vision, a globalist communist vision. And these so-called conservatives have bought right into it. And don't be fooled. All this free trade, extreme free trade, this has nothing to do with being conservative. These open border free trade deals, this is all about globalism. That's it. Has nothing to do with being conservative. You've been fooled. That's it. Christine says we should just make the mean, hateful people leave and keep people who share Canadian values and want to work with us 100% for the best future. 100%. And there's some great immigrants out there, and we welcome you in the party. And we know you're out there, and there's thousands and millions of you out there. We know that. And we encourage you to join us. And if that's why you came to our country, to share our principles, our values, to become Canadian, to come for a better life, then join our party. Because what you ran from is coming here. And a lot of you know that now. I want to thank everyone for tonight. We may have to do this discussion again, but I think we touched on what's happening, and it's very disturbing. Please share this with others. And we do these Q&As twice a week, and every 2 weeks. So please join us in the next one. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. These were excellent feedback, and we've only scratched the surface on this issue tonight, everyone. But I think we capitalized pretty much what's happening to our country and the urgency of saving our country. And please stay strong and keep spreading the word. And I want to wish everyone the best this week and on the weekend, and until we see you again. And please don't get discouraged. There is hope. We are speaking up in growing numbers. So just be happy with that there are Canadians now speaking up. And we're smart Canadians. We're loyal Canadians. We're brave Canadians. We're courageous Canadians. And we love our country and people. And we're going to fight. And we're going to keep fighting. And we're fighting the good fight. So let's keep it up, everyone. Have a great night.